Welcome to our table group discussion starter for the week of May 18th, 2020. Psalm 6, verses 6 through 10 are our focus scripture this week. This version comes from the Common English Bible. So now hear these words. I am worn out from groaning. Every night I drench my bed with tears. I soak my couch all the way through. My vision fails because of my grief. It is weak because of all my distress. Get away from me, all you evildoers, because the Lord has heard me crying. The Lord has listened to my request, and the Lord accepts my prayer. All my enemies will be ashamed, and they will be completely terrified. They will be defeated and ashamed instantly. Can you feel the deep sadness of the author of this poem? Have you ever experienced distress or anxiety like what is described here in these verses, in verse 6 and 7 specifically? Have you wanted to scream out at all the things, all the people, and or the circumstances that caused you such grief? Will you do a little exercise with me? Will you circle all of the verb phrases in verse 6? I've italicized them on the table group focus sheet if you need a little help. Look at those verb phrases. Can you relate to those phrases? Pause the video if you need to think on ways that you too might have felt like the author does. Now, notice the shift in the poet's tone in verse 9. As he banishes the evildoers, he acknowledges that God has heard his request. Also, notice how the verb tenses change from present tense to future tense in verse 10. The author acknowledges God's present presence and God's action, saying that God has listened and God accepts his prayer. And in the very next sentence, he speaks to a future deliverance, as if there is no doubt, no question, that it will come to pass. So I take you back to my first question. Have you ever experienced depression or sadness like what is described here? Have you ever been worn out from groaning? Have you ever drenched your bed with tears? Have you ever not been able to see because of your grief? And have you ever been so weak that you can hardly move because of your distress? I want you to know that you are not alone. This scripture was written over 2,600 years ago, and it was as true then as it is today. Deep grief, deep depression, they are very real emotions. Will you do another exercise with me? Will you name your enemies? Now, likely your enemies aren't individual people, although they could be. And if so, I invite you to name them and to think deeply about what divides you and this other person. Additionally, think on other things as well. Name the situations or the circumstances, the difficulties, the trials, the struggles, the sickness, the fears, the things that knock you down. Can you trust that your groaning is heard by God? If so, can you hope into a future that you cannot see? Knowing that God is with you and that God will defeat those dark circumstances that are presently surrounding you. Lean into that hope, even if it seems to be too small or too remote to be possibly true. Lean into it and trust that God is indeed with you. Thanks for watching, and I pray that you have fruitful conversations about this poem, the scripture, and about your own struggles and your own hopes as you gather virtually around the table.